Welcome to Divorcing Strong, the podcast that pulls no punches when it comes to divorce. I'm Becky Sampson, better known as Bulldog Becky Brockovich, and I'm here to give you the straight talk, the strategies, and the subpoena secrets you won't hear anywhere else. With expert guests and proven advice, you'll learn your rights, your options, and gain your power that encourages a fair and equitable outcome. Divorce doesn't have to break you. It can build you. Let's get to it. Okay, well, welcome to another episode of the Divorcing Strong podcast. I'm Becky Sampson, your host as always. And man, this is our second show for today. And usually my Tuesday, Wednesdays, and Thursdays are pretty packed with these podcasts. And today I'm telling you, I am so blessed to be able to be connected to some of the best people in this industry, and with their wisdom, with their experience, with their passion to be able to educate you as you're going through a divorce and also provide great resources. Well, and this one today is an amazing story of how he's come from not even being in the divorce space to now being in the divorce space, and now one of the largest firms here in the state of Utah, which a lot of you are following me from. So if you know somebody, or if you are aware of somebody in your family or friends, or you yourself are going through a difficult divorce, you might want to just check in to this episode today. So today's guest, this is very interesting. Today's guest didn't grow up dreaming of becoming a lawyer. He grew up in a Cold Bay, Alaska, a village with just 85 people, where hunting and fishing mattered more than the courtroom arguments. Everything changed one night when a close friend of his called in crisis. Facing a devastated divorce, Marco had never handled a family law case, but he stayed up until 3 a.m. teaching himself everything about divorce law. By morning, he knew his friend would be okay, and he's just discovered his new calling. Fast forward to today, Marco is the founder of Brown Family Law, one of Utah's most respected divorce and family law firms. Named Utah's Family Law Attorney of the Year, he's helped over 4,000 families navigating their toughest chapters. His journey: in 2010, Marco and his wife moved to Utah with $160,000 in student debt, 0 clients, and no network. They started Brown Family Law on the floor of their condo and built it into what it is today. So when he's not fighting for families in court, Marco's cooking Italian pizza, reading history, or traveling Europe with his opera singer wife and 3 kids. Pretty amazing. So welcome to the show, Marco. Uh-oh, we can't hear you. Let's see. I could hear you before. Let me make sure it's not on my end.
Okay, can you hear me now?
I can hear you now. Awesome.
Okay. Sorry, for some reason it was going through my iPhone instead of through my my computer, so we fixed it.
That's okay. Apple likes to do that. That's why I was checking my earbuds and everything. I was like, okay, wait. No, but thank you so much for taking the time out of your very, very busy schedule. I listened to another podcast that you did with someone else, and I was super impressed with your story, your back. And one of the things that you and I share is a lot of weight loss. We both have lost a tremendous amount of weight. So how much have you lost?
So I lost 85 for my highest. I think you've lost more than I have.
That's okay.
Super impressive. Yeah. But 85. Yep.
Yeah, I thought that was very interesting when I heard that, because you don't run into that very often. And I know when we did our little call the other day, you talked about how important your health is, and it is a lifetime. It's a lifelong commitment. So we might kind of talk a little bit about that when it comes to divorce. But tell everybody kind of your backstory of how you got into this space, and why are you so passionate about. And now you've grown such a huge organization or firm to help people in the state of Utah.
Yeah. So I'll start a little bit ago, but I'll do this
Yeah.
quickly. So when I was a little kid, my grandmother was a professor and had a PhD when women didn't do that sort of thing. But I always identified with her. I knew that I would be like her in the sense that I would get a professional degree of some sort. So I'd be a doctor, lawyer, scientist, dentist, something like that. And then I had to figure out kind of what fit my head. And over time, I figured out that being a lawyer, like I'm a combative guy. I like arguing. I like concepts. I like all these things. So I thought, all right, let's do that. Let's be a lawyer. So became a lawyer, then came here to Utah in 2010 so my wife could get a doctorate. And I just kind of did everything because I figured out I was a really terrible employee. So I didn't work in other law firms well. And I just started something. And I didn't know what I was doing. So I just helped everybody with everything, which is a really bad way to go about it. But I had a friend who came to me and she needed a divorce and I needed money. And I thought, okay, let's figure this out. So we figured it out, got a really good result for her and her kids. And afterward, I thought, man, I really kind of like that. And so I started doing more and more of that.
What did you specifically like about the divorce space?
I liked... Okay. So this is kind of me and my personality. I like helping people a lot, right? I like serving them quite a bit, but I like serving people when they're walking through hell. And I've just always liked that aspect of human interaction. So I enjoyed it. She was going through a really difficult time and I was able to help her get through a really difficult time and make it a little less difficult. And that resonated with me. So that's all I've done since.
And that was that in 2010 or was that soon after 2010?
Yeah. So that was right around 2011, probably.
Okay. It's interesting because I got divorced, my first divorce. When I read that, I was thinking, oh man, he just started this practice way back then. Like, where were you during my thing? But
I did not know what I was doing during your thing.
Well,
I was piecing it together.
Yeah. And one thing I really appreciated actually when I was, reading up on your stuff too, is that you researched. I mean, you went and stayed up all night long and researched what you could do. I'm a researcher too. That's the reason why I think I love this space as well, because every case is different, and everybody's circumstances are different. And it's like, oh, okay, I don't know that. So I'm going to research this. And you did that. And then you were able to get a favorable outcome for her and knew that she was going to be okay, which is sometimes when people are going through divorce, they don't feel that way at the time. And for you to be able to communicate that to her going, you're going to be okay. We just had to take it one step at a time. You obviously know a lot more about the divorce space now. What do you think have been the main points that what you've learned as an attorney, and what patterns mistakes that people have made during this process?
Oh, there's a lot there. So what I've learned as an attorney, let's take it like this. What I've learned as an attorney serving people going through divorce. One, people don't, my clients cannot tell whether or not I'm a good attorney. They usually don't have the wherewithal to do that because they've just never been in this space. What they can tell though is how I talk to them and how I interact with them and how I communicate with them, because those are the things they understand, because that's what they deal with in real life every day, right? So what I learned early on was I needed to give my clients that. I needed to reassure them. I needed to talk with them in an empathic way. I needed to give them real advice in a real way they could understand it. Yeah. And I needed to speak with them systematically and consistently. And then I needed to be like an exceptionally good lawyer on top of that. Right. So I needed to layer those things. And that's what I teach my attorneys now is like, let's give clients what they understand and what they want right up front. And then we're going to be really, really good attorneys in addition to that. So that was like one of the lessons that I learned very early on as an attorney that they never teach you in law school. And that's really helped me to serve my clients really well. So that's the answer to the first question. And then we can get into the mistakes that people make if you want to do that.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think the primary mistake that people make is they go into a divorce and they want to act like a jerk to the other person,
Mm.
right? Because they've been harmed, and that's totally normal, and
Yeah.
that's completely fine. I mean, it's not fine, but I get that. It's just a normal human thing. But when you do that, you're just exacerbating all of the problems.
Yeah.
You don't need to be a jerk. You don't need to be vindictive. You don't need to use kids as pawns. You don't need to do any of that kind of stuff, right? Like, you can be nice and good to the person that you're going to get divorced from. Now, that doesn't mean you roll over and you play dead or you capitulate to whatever they want. You can fight and fight really, really hard, but you just don't need to be a jerk, because everyone hates a jerk, including the judge.
I was going to say the judges and the courts do not like that.
They do not like that at all. They don't. So I think that's the primary mistake that people make.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. Is that I think people automatically associate divorce with fight, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't have to be that way. Although there is, and I like the word advocate much better. Advocate for yourself, which you don't have to have adversarial feelings towards that other person to be able, and actually you'll get further in the court and in your case that way, if they can be more logical that way. Yep. I know that you, I mean, honestly, one of the things I actually knew about you before, or knew about your firm before I met you through this connection. And it's because of your reputation. And I know that for many years, I mean, really, that's not that long for you to be in practice, 15, 16 years. Is it?
15. Yep.
Yeah. So 15, how have you built up such a reputation? What do you think has been at the very core of that? I mean, not only that you represent a lot and you also have a fairly large firm, but what do you think has contributed to that?
Well, I think the first thing is you try to help your clients exceptionally well, right? Mm-hmm. And then after that is you advertise, because that's the only way. That's the only way you grow. I mean, that's just the way it is. And then the third for me is I've really tried to be good to my colleagues, the other attorneys, the clerks of the court, the commissioners and the judges, mediators. I try to make their lives a little bit better whenever I can. And I think that goes a really, really long way. So hopefully I have a pretty good reputation, because I really do try to help out my colleagues in this space. And, opposing counsel is the same way. I don't need to be a jerk to opposing counsel, because it's not my, this is a case. It's not my life, right? Like, we don't need to do that to each other. And when we treat each other well, we actually get along better, and we get better results for our clients because we're able to negotiate better. But all of these things, I think, have contributed to our reputation.
Yeah. So it's interesting. You bring up a fact that I think I was talking to somebody yesterday, and I can't remember who it was, about, I know who it was. Actually, there's somebody local that he and I were having this conversation about how we want the attorneys in our case. Like, it surprises us when we see the attorneys that are nice to each other. Because I'm like, wait a minute, you're supposed to be advocating for me. Why are you like hobnobbing with the other attorney? And I think what most people don't realize is it's a very small community, and many of you know each other. Many of you have been in litigations. Many of you have been through different cases, and the better, the less conflict, it really does help your case all around. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely right. And this is one of the big things that clients don't understand about lawyering. And it's fine that they don't understand it, because again, they're not in this world, but they tend to want, many of them tend to want people who litigate, who fight the other attorney and don't like the other attorney. Well, again, if you do that, like, all you're going to do is fight, and you're not going to negotiate. And then your case is going to cost way more, take way longer, and mess up your kids a lot more, right? Like, that's just not how it functions. You want attorneys that like each other, that can joke with each other, that trust each other, because when they trust each other, then they actually get stuff done. If you don't trust the other guy or the other gal, you're not going to negotiate with them, because you literally can't trust anything they say. And then you're going to litigate everything to the hilt, and your case is going to take 3 years, and it's going to cost you $100,000 plus. And that's terrible.
Yeah. Yeah. The question I have actually for you, do you normally, what's your percentage of, like, how many men do you do you represent versus women in your firm?
So men is 45%, women is 55%.
Really?
I shoot for a 50-50 split, but I did the numbers about 2 months ago and it was a 45-55.
Wow. And who do you think is easier to represent?
Nice people.
I love that answer. I think that's very interesting because we just talked about it on this last podcast is about, look, if you come in being willing to do the work and being willing to take responsibility for your own stuff, it's so much easier to work through a divorce and negotiate and get to a point where you can have a fair and equitable division. So I love that answer. So I read somewhere that you had that you actually had a panic. You were awarded the top divorce attorney in Utah, and then you ended up having, like, that same week, you ended up having a panic attack. What happened in that moment, and how did that change everything when it came to running your firm?
Yeah. So I don't know if it was a panic attack. I'll kind of take you through it, but I'm not sure it was a panic attack. I don't think I've ever had a panic attack in my life, actually.
Okay.
I've been depressed, but I don't think I've ever had a panic attack. Anyway, so what happened was it's 2015. I've been doing this for really full time as a divorce attorney for about 3 years at that point, 3.5 years. And I got voted the best family law attorney in Utah for that year, and which was amazing. Like, I don't put a lot of stock in awards, but that one I really liked because I got voted on by my peers.
Right.
And I went through the whole thing. It was fantastic. My wife was there for the ceremony. It was great. And then a week later, I realized I had all the same problems in my law firm that I had before. And I was not a very good business person at this point at all. So I had tons of problems, and they were really stressing me out. And once I got over the euphoria of winning the award, I realized I had all the same problems. So what happened there is it kind of came to a head when I was in the shower one morning. I get in the shower, and I was usually fine in the shower for about the first 5 minutes. And then I would start thinking about cases and ruminating on them. And all the problems would just come at me right there in the shower. Yeah. My heart would start to palpitate. My chest would constrict, and I would get a stress headache that would start at the top of my head here, and it would envelop my face by about 3 o'clock in the afternoon, because I've been through this before. Yeah. And I could sense that was coming on right during that shower. But this one was different. The shower was different in the sense that when that started happening, I saw my future, and my future, it was about 60, 65 is what I kind of figured out. And I was at my own funeral. I was looking out from the casket to the people there, and I saw my wife and kids that I didn't have at that point were mourning my dead body. And that happened. So that vision happened for about 10 seconds, and then it stopped. And I'm a believer, and I believe that God was speaking to me and showing me a possible future. And that future was, if you keep doing what you're doing, you're dead at 60 to 65. And I remember I never really had that happen. I'm not a prophet. I've never really had that happen before, but it was as clear as day. And I thought to myself very quickly after that, screw that. I'm not doing that to my family. I will that's not how I'm going to go out. And then it began a process for me of, like, how do I get better at the business of what I'm doing such that I can not stress out about it every day and die of a heart attack when I'm 60.
Yeah. And I think that's a very common thing. I was actually in Salt Lake at a conference for family attorneys. And this one lady she's no longer an attorney, but she was a family attorney for many years. And I told her, I said, yeah, every time I talk to people, I always tell them, look, divorce attorneys have lives too, right? Like, there's a lot of stress that comes with dealing with a lot of this conflict that people are in. And that was something that I also had to keep in mind when I was going through my divorce case, is even though I was so upset at times with what his attorney was doing, and I was representing myself at the time, but I had to make peace with that, right? Like I just had to see him as a father and of 2 children, of going home, and what stress that this case was on him as well. So I don't think people really think about that. Like that, it's a major burnout.
Yeah, it is a very major burnout. And in fact, this experience really has created in me a desire to create a firm such that my attorneys don't burn out, right? Because I want them here for a long period of time to serve clients exceptionally well over decades, right? Not just years, but decades. And that's very difficult to do in the family law space. Most attorneys can make it 3 to 5 years and then they burn out. And my goal is like, no, I want decades long attorney relationships and people serving my clients.
So what do you specifically do to support your divorce attorneys in your firm?
So the major thing you can do, there are only so many things I can do as a boss, right?
Yeah.
But the major thing that I can do is to decrease their stress. So first thing is you find really good clients, because F clients and just make everything terrible.
Yes.
Right. So it's weeding out those people and getting A and B clients, right?
Mm-hmm.
And there are different ways we can do that, but that's the first thing. And then the second thing is we cap the number of clients our attorneys can serve at any given time to about 30. So we actually cap the number pretty low. You look at most places and they'll have 50, 60, 70, 90. I had 112. Like my max was 112 simultaneously. It was stupid.
Are you serious?
Yeah, it was absolutely stupid. It was horrible. I shouldn't have done it. I'm glad that I got through that period of my life, but it taught me that you probably ought not do this, and you certainly shouldn't do it to other people. So, but a lot of attorneys, a lot of family law attorneys, they have so many clients, they don't remember their names when they go to court, right? So, and we don't do that. We limit it so we can talk to our clients very systematically and consistently. We know what's going on in the cases. We can get things done. We can go over a draft 5 times to make sure that it's, really well completed, all of those things. So those are the 2 major levers that levers that I can pull in order to help my attorneys and their longevity and their ability to serve our clients. I mean, there's more to it, but those are the 2 primary ones.
No, that's really important, because I don't think people realize how many. I mean, you don't ask your attorney how many cases do you have right now. You know what I mean?
No one asks that question.
And sometimes people will come back.
No.
Yeah, they'll be like, "So why does he not remember all of the details?" And I'm like, "Look, I mean, I have a client just yesterday. I told her, I said, look, of all people, you know your case better than anybody. So still advocating, even though you have an attorney, they don't have time. They're not thinking about it 24 hours a day, like you are." And being able to work with them instead of expecting them just to do everything for your case. I mean, I think that's, and have you seen a huge improvement within your cases and being able to get them through, and really your client feeling better about the case when it's done with? They feel more cared for.
Yeah. So the 2 things that decrease client satisfaction the most in divorce is, one, I call my attorney and I can't get a call back, right? So it's the communication problem. Mm-hmm. So there's that. And then the amount of time their case takes. So the length of their case. So what we do is we talk systematically with our clients. Like every attorney calls every client every Friday. Every paralegal texts every client every Wednesday, right? So to give updates, to see how you're doing, to lay out what the next week is. Like, we're doing this. And this is in addition to all of the normal communication that we have with our clients. So we talk systematically with our clients all the time. Mm-hmm. And then the other thing is we're trying to get the cases done, not as quickly as humanly possible, because sometimes, when you do things too quickly, you're missing it.
Yeah, it's a balance.
Yeah, exactly. But we're trying to get the cases done rather quickly and move people through the process, because that's what we found is most advantageous to them. And when the case elongates, they tend to dislike us, right? And they tend to dislike the other side, which increases the conflict and then hurts their kids, right? So we're trying to get them through negotiations and get them done with their case in about 6 months.
Wow. So that's a very important thing to understand, is because sometimes depending on how much conflict so it's probably because you're vetting people up front, right? That you can see the possibility of it taking a long time, or look, can we get these guys finished and out the door so that they can get on with their life? Because I was going to ask you that question is that how long does it usually take them? And what really stands in the way of them not getting it done quicker?
What stands in the way of them not getting it done quicker? One is when we ask for stuff, we want stuff. Like if you don't know, for your finances, for example. So if you don't know your finances, then it just takes longer because you have to go figure out your finances and get them to us. And if you're not getting us the documentation that we need, then your case is going to take longer. Yep. If you really want to fight about things, then your case is going to take longer. And sometimes, we need to go fight. Sometimes we have a husband that just cuts his wife off of all the money, or a wife that takes the kids and doesn't let the husband see the kid. These are the things that we really do need to fight about. And when we get to fight about those things, it's super fun. I love that actually as a litigator, but I can't do it too much. Otherwise I hurt kids. So, the more you want to fight about things, the longer it's just going to take. But really, I think most of it is when we ask for things, we need our clients to get them to us so we can get them through the process. That's the number one.
Yeah. So kind of the more prepared they are with the documentation, yep, it's going to make it easier for yours. And then obviously, I think I asked this question of Heather on the podcast earlier today. I mean, because you seem like you kind of like the fight like I do. I'm a bit of I
adore it.
I hate to admit that, but don't challenge me. Don't tell me what to do. You know what I mean? Type of thing. Mm-hmm. With that kind of a spirit, there's a good and a bad to it. So how do you manage that? Like when somebody comes to you and they're a true victim, okay, not just throwing that out there, and you are just like, oh, absolutely, I'm going to advocate and fight for you. How do you manage those emotions for yourself to be able to show up for the best for them?
So I think that for me, and people deal with this differently, but for me, I really do enjoy the fight. Cross-examination is the best thing that has ever been invented by human beings. It is the most fun thing in the world. But I just need to remind myself, in order to serve my clients best and fight best, is that this is not my case, right? Mm-hmm. Not my circus, not my monkeys. I need to be able to go away from it. I need to be able to detach myself emotionally from the fight, because when I get too into it and too emotional about it, then I start missing stuff because yes, I just want to beat the other guy senseless. And mm-hmm, that works every once in a while, but usually not. Usually I'm not my best as an attorney when that is my overriding concern. Right. So I have to be able to step back and dissociate from it emotionally, and then figure out the arguments that are going to be most persuasive. And I can't get too into it. I can't have too much investment in it. Otherwise I just start missing stuff. And the other thing about it is, and I think this is actually really, really important. We charge a lot of money, right? Mm-hmm. Because we just do this one thing and we're going to do this thing better than everybody else. Mm-hmm. And people tend to think that charging too much makes for kind of a worse litigation process because people can't afford it. But mm-hmm, when you charge a lot of money, people are forced to make decisions about what is truly important to them and what they truly want to fight over. Because if you don't charge that much, you don't charge anything, people will fight about everything.
Yep.
Then
that's a really interesting point.
Yeah, they have no restrictions, right? And that's when you really, really mess kids up, is when you can fight about everything, and you do fight about everything. So the money is actually it makes me a much better litigator and makes my clients much better as divorce clients, because they have to figure out what's truly important to them and only fight about those things.
Yeah. So, I mean, kind of along that line, I mean, is there a particular case or client that still kind of haunts you, or one that reminds you of why you do what you do?
Yeah. I have a lot of them. I have some, the kind of worst divorces I've ever done. The worst divorce I ever did, I did it for free. I think I got $5,000 at the beginning of the case or something, but it ended up costing like $180,000. And I just comped it because at some point I'm going to stand before the bar of God and I need to have some good things. And I figured, all right, it's going to be one of those good things. So, but it was horrible. Like it was awful on every level. And I still remember every part of that litigation because I was in it so much. But yeah, there are tons and tons of cases that I remember how I felt when I did them. I remember how good it felt, going through that process and how much I enjoyed it. And I will remember those cases until I pass from this earth.
Yeah. And I appreciate you saying that. I think before we started, you also said something about that you really like to fight to keep marriages together. Talk a little bit about that and relationships and why people really, really don't want to go for divorce, which I agree with you, by the way.
So this is actually interesting. I'm a divorce attorney. I've helped at this point 4,000 or 5,000 people through this process. I hate divorce. I hate divorce. Right? I've been married for 24 years. I adore my wife. My parents were married. Her parents were married. The vast majority of people I know are married and have been for their entire lives. So I really dislike divorce, but that actually makes me a better divorce attorney because I'm not super gung ho about it. And I'm not trying to get people into it so I can, make their lives better or some such thing. I hear divorce attorneys talk about that all the time. No, your life is better when you find the person that you want to be with, and then you stick in that fight as much as humanly possible. And sometimes it has to end. Okay, that's fine. I'm here for that. But the better path is no. And I talk about this quite a lot because I'd much rather people spend $20,000 not on me, but on counseling or a vacation or something that's going to make their marriage better and their life better. Right. Like I think that's super important. So my major things when it comes to keeping marriages together, there's some things you can do on the front end, like don't get married too early before you're 20. The stats are not really good. After you're about 40, the stats aren't really good for kind of first marriages, right? And then the other things are be on the same page when it comes to things like children and religion and money and in-laws, all of those things you want to be as close as possible. Like opposites do not attract, actually. I don't know where this comes from.
Yeah, kidding.
Opposites tend to repel when you get married for 50 years, or you're probably not going to be married for 50 years. So you want to agree on those major things. And if you're in a marriage where you don't agree on those major things, you should do really, really difficult work to agree on those major things as much as you possibly can. And that's very difficult, especially if you've diverged from each other, right? That's a lot of very hard work, and you have to be committed to that. And then lastly here, I think one of the big things, if you have an okay marriage and you want to make it better, or you have a not great marriage, but salvageable and you want to make it better, then have goals in common that you're working toward, whether those are money goals or spiritual goals or, whatever it is, right? Like have those things that you can work on together consistently in the future. And you really have to be together on those things, working towards something that's going to bring you together like nothing else will.
Yeah. It's interesting, Marco, that you said that. Something came to me the other day when I was doing a podcast that I asked this question: how often do you, with all your experience with everybody that you've worked with, do you see this common thread that if both partners are equally aware of the finances, everything's transparent, how often do they get divorced versus the people who one person has all the financial information and the other person's kind of taking the back seat to it? Have you seen that pattern of
Yeah, this is actually kind of difficult for me because I've done so many divorces, and I just know so many people who are married. And your marriage, how you set up your marriage is kind of your thing. And if it works for you, cool. I know a lot of people where the husband or the wife has absolutely no concept of finances, right? Because they simply don't want to know. They just don't. And it's not that the other person is hiding it from them. They are transparent about it. But one side just doesn't want to know anything about it. Like my wife is kind of very much like that.
Yeah.
I'll talk with her about it and she just doesn't care because she knows the money's there and that's cool with her. And I will tell her whatever she wants to know when she wants to know it, but she usually doesn't want to. So that one kind of depends. I think it's the lack of potential transparency. Like if you ask about the money and the other person says, screw you, you don't get to know about the money.
Exactly.
That's really, really bad.
Major red flag.
That's incredibly bad, I think. But if it's just that you set your life up in such a way where you don't want to care about the money and your spouse does, like that's fine. That's fine.
Yeah. Well, that's an interesting point. I just kind of have been thinking about that lately and like thinking of like, I wonder if that's one of, because in my first marriage, same thing. He didn't care to know. I'm like, what happens if I die? Like you need to know everything, but he didn't. In my second, I had absolutely no access to anything. So it was like, okay, wait a minute. Anyway, and it really does matter. I mean, relationships, how you do marriage is how you're going to do divorce, right? And you've had a lot of experience. Kind of as a last question, which I'm starting to kind of ask everybody on every podcast is, because this is Divorcing Strong and because I'm really about giving people the resources and the ability to come through their divorce when it is inevitable, that's where they're going to go. What does Divorcing Strong mean to you?
I would tend to think about it like this. You can advocate for yourself. You can know what you want to accomplish in a divorce and then go get it. Right now, you shouldn't be intransigent about it in the sense that you want to negotiate. Otherwise, again, you're probably not going to get what you want and you're going to mess up your kids. But you can be strong in knowing what you want and then going for it. You just don't have to be a jerk doing it.
I love that. Yep. Your come from is a huge, it helps to know where you're going to end up in the end, depending on where you're coming from. So thank you so much, Marco, for your time today. And thank you for being so intentional about providing a service and a quality service and also helping your attorneys. Because that's the first time I've really heard somebody say, look, I really needed to build a strong foundation so that you can be there for the long haul, not just a short spout, So, so thank you so much. And if you want to reach out to them, all of his contact information is down at the bottom, and you can reach out to his, and also just go to the Brown Family Law. So hold on just one second, Marco. Thank you so much for being on today. All right. Well, thank you guys for checking into another episode of the Divorcing Strong podcast. I've been your host, Becky Sampson, here with Marco Brown. Here in Utah, of all places. I'm so grateful to be able to connect with all of these amazing people who have such passion and drive to doing the right thing for the right reason. So make sure to join, like, and subscribe. Share this episode with people that you know who are going through divorce, or if it is yourself as well. We are here to serve and help you. So thanks again, and we'll see you on the next. Thanks for listening to the Divorcing Strong podcast. This episode is sponsored by Only Subpoenas, where we make subpoenas simple, powerful, and 100% compliant. If you're having a hard time getting the information you need to settle for a fair and equitable divorce, let us help you. Whether you're an attorney or you're navigating divorce on your own, subpoenas can uncover the truth, secure the evidence you need, and level the playing field. To see how we can help, book an appointment by visiting our website at onlysubpoenas.com.